So in this video, we're going to be talking about total body water. Okay, so water is very important, as we all know that a typical 70 kg male, 60% of his weight is water. That's a lot of water. And if you translate that into actual figures, that's like 42 liters. That's a lot. I mean, even if we are not 70 kgs, the fact remains that majority of your weight is still water. So that means it's very important to understand water, the fluid compartments, how water moves from one compartment to another. And you know, there are so many functions of water, but the one that always stands out for me is the fact that water provides a medium for chemical reactions that are vital for life to take place. I mean, there are so many chemical reactions that take place in our body, and then there are those that are very vital, that actually gives life, that actually sustains life. And those chemical reactions, they need an aqueous medium. So that's very, very important. I mean, IV fluids are the most prescribed drugs in the entire world in clinical medicine. So we need to understand, when we give fluids, what are we doing? And I mean, if you don't understand total body water, homeostasis, and the factors that affects the movement of water within the body from one compartment to another, then it's always going to be hard to understand what type of fluid to use and when, and also to understand why do patients actually complicate and die when they've lost fluids and all of that. So let's talk about total body water. So total body water, TBW. So if we're saying we've got this person who's 70 kgs, whom is his water content, like the water portion, or the weight, or his weight is about 60% water, we need to understand how is this water arranged in his body, right? So water is found or is located in pockets, if I put it that way, called fluid compartments in the body. Fluid compartments. And these fluid compartments, they are divided into two. We have intracellular and we have extracellular. Intracellular, that's inside the cells. The fluid that is found inside the cells is intracellular fluid. And the name of that fluid, some people call it cytosol, some call it cytoplasm. That's the fluid that we find inside the cells. It's the fluid that gives cells their shape. We are going to talk about dehydration, what is the difference between shock, dehydration, and that kind of a thing. So that's your intracellular fluid. On the other hand, extracellular. Extracellular fluid compartments is divided into two, one small. It has got two sub-compartments, if I may put it that way, which the first one is, it's the intravascular, and the extravascular. The intravascular, the other name for intravascular fluid is plasma. We know that plasma is the fluid component of blood, or the fluid portion of blood. Things get interesting when you get to the extravascular. Extravascular is also divided into two. You have interstitial and you have transcellular. Interstitial and transcellular. Plasma, interstitial fluid, transcellular fluid, and on this side you have cytosol or cytoplasm. So what is transcellular? So transcellular fluid is the fluid that you find in places like, these are the fluids that no one ever talks about when they talk about fluid compartments, but it's the fluid that you find in the joints, the fluid that you find in the fluid like your vitreous humor, the aqueous humor, in the eyes, the CSF, the fluid that you find in the pericardial space, the fluid that you find in the between the parietal pleura and the visceral pleura in the lungs. You know, there's a lot of those fluids. Different. So yeah, so this is how water is arranged in the body. So we said that a 70 kg person has got about 60% of his weight is water. So that 70 kg person or male, if 60% of his weight is actually water, that means 42, so that means that's 42 liters. So he's got 42 liters of fluid in these compartments. Now, intracellular has got about 28 liters of that. 28 liters. And then extracellular is about 14 liters. Right? And plasma is about 3.5 liters. And the interstitial is about 14, or let me say the extravascular is about 14 point, no sorry, it's about 10.5 liters. So I mean guys, this is a lot. I mean most of us, we think that the majority of the fluid in our body is actually plasma, and yet plasma is not the majority, but the intracellular is the majority. I mean, we are going to talk about fluid, the pathologies that are involved here, so that we can understand what is dehydration, what is shock. So when you say someone is dehydrated, which compartment has lost a lot of fluid, or when you've got, for instance, if you have lost intravascular, you get hypotension. If you have lost intracellular, that's dehydration. So we're going to talk about those things in detail. But now what is important is just to understand that the body, I mean the water in our body is arranged this way. And this is where you find the majority of the water. This is where you find the least of the water in the body and all of that. Now, it's important to understand that there's a constant movement of water between these compartments. Now, we need to understand what are the factors that affect the movement of water from one compartment to another. What are the factors what happens. For instance, what is edema? When you've got edema, where is that fluid?